Today I'm going to show you my version of the classic candle cup, which is made from a short length of 3/4 inch black pipe and a 3/8 round bar. I'm going to be using a small vise that fits into my hardy hole to hold a swage block that I'm going to be using to shape the black pipe. I like this small vise because it sits a lot lower than my post vise, so it makes it a lot more comfortable when I need to hammer on the top surface of the vise like I'm doing today. The first thing I need to do is put that graceful taper on the end of the pipe, and to do that I need to hammer into a V-block. The V-block, in conjunction with the hammer, puts pressure on the pipe in 3 areas, so that allows it to neck down very efficiently. If you tried to do this on the flat face of the anvil, you'd just wind up distorting the pipe and nothing would happen. And the other reason you use a V-block instead of a round swage is because as the end of the pipe gets narrower, it's just going to naturally start sitting lower and lower in the V-block, but it's still going to be supported on the 2 sides. The first thing you want to do when you're tapering the end of a pipe freehand is to close up the end of the pipe as quickly as possible. Once you have the ends of the pipe rounded over and closed up, then that's going to support the pipe so that it stays round, and from that point on you can basically hammer it as hard as you want, so you can get a lot more aggressive with shaping that taper because you don't have to worry as much about distorting the pipe. Here I'm actually starting to work on the taper that I want on the end of the bar. I've moved to a heavier hammer and I'm just hitting the top face the same way that you would when you're forging any other taper, only this time I'm just systematically working my way around the surface of the pipe. I'm not just hammering on 2 sides. The way you normally would forge a taper, I need to make sure that the bar stays round through the entire process. Here I'm just doing some light hammering to straighten out the sides and to make sure that the tip is in line with the center line of the pipe. Here I'm just doing some final shaping and I'm working on the tip, and what I'm doing is I'm putting a 45-degree angle on the very tip of the bar, and this will serve as a scarf joint later on when I weld this part of the pipe to the round bar. You can grind the bevel in if you prefer, but hammering the bevel in while it's still hot is a little bit faster and it usually produces a pretty clean weld. So here I've cut off the blank for the candle cup, and I've also used a hacksaw to saw in 2 saw cuts on the end that go in about 1/2 inch. And I know it may seem counterintuitive, but I actually need these saw cuts in order to be able to make a tight, seamless weld later on. And they're just quick saw cuts. You don't have to worry about getting them straight or 90 degrees to each other. They're all going to get welded up here in a minute. Here I'm using a punch to open up the end of the pipe so that I can drive the round bar into the candle cup. I need it opened enough so that I can drive the round bar right through the candle cup. I'm just test fitting the 2 pieces here. I have one more operation that I need to do to the round bar before I can fit the 2 pieces together. Before I assemble the pieces, I like to upset the end of the round bar slightly so the end flares out, and that prevents it from passing all the way through the candle cup. And the reason I do that is to keep the round bar from shifting out of position inside the candle cup while it's in the fire. I don't mind if it slides up slightly in the candle cup, but I want to make sure that it doesn't slide down out the bottom of the candle cup because I don't have a lot of room to play with there to get it welded to the candle cup. So believe it or not, that's how you set up the scarf joint to be able to forge weld a seamless joint from the stem of the candle holder to the candle cup. This isn't a welding heat, I'm just tightening everything up and making sure that there's full contact through the entire weld joint. When you're welding small parts like this, you need to create the largest mass possible. So you tie everything together. You don't have scarf joints that are sticking out in the air or anything like that. You just tie it all together so it heats up as a unit and maintains that welding heat as long as possible. And as I've mentioned in other videos, proper welding heat should result in a forge weld that is pretty visually unspectacular. You don't see showers of sparks or tons of slag flying off everywhere. All you need here is a few light taps and everything will weld together just fine. This actually isn't a welding heat. I noticed that the scarf joints were still a little blunt and heavy, so I'm thinning them out here so that I'll have an easier time to blend them in. I'm not hammering the stem at all. I'm just trying to fuller the thick edge of the candle cup so that it draws down into a more graceful taper that will allow me to blend it in better. So now I'm taking another welding heat to continue blending that seam between the candle cup and the stem of the candle holder. In this heat, I'm starting to shape the top rim of the candle cup. And I'm just using a light hammer to define where I want that top rim to start. So I'm just going to take a couple of heats to define that line. Once you have the rim flared out slightly and it's easier to get inside, you can move over to the edge of the anvil and you can start shaping the flare from the inside out. And then once the rim is well defined and wide enough, you can do the final shaping by just driving the rim back onto itself. Hi, I'm Dennis and thanks for watching. As most of you know, for the past few years I've been producing YouTube videos on a part-time basis. I am now looking to turn that hobby into a full-time job, and for that I really need your help. A small monthly contribution from a really small number of viewers will generate the income that I need to achieve that goal. So if you're interested in the work that I'm doing and you want to lend your support, please click on the Patreon icon at the bottom of the screen. Thank you. We'll see you next time.